Hello everyone, this is Christopher from our hometown, and today we're going to take a quick look at importing reverse publishing content into InDesign. We're going to pick up after our export settings post. I'll leave a link to that in the description that tells you how to set things up on the plugin side of things, but for this demonstration we're going to basically start with the XML content that has been exported from the plugin, and we're going to go through the process of importing that into your InDesign layout. So I've got an InDesign document open here. We've got a few things pre-populated, some logos, a bit of layout, some column setups on the pages. Also over here under paragraph styles, we've got some here for the body text, headlines, things like that. A couple of extra ones, but all the ones that have been provided on the plugin side so that the XML content we import will also have these styles referenced. Those will match, and then they'll automatically be applied when we drag the content into the layout. So to get started, if you don't have the structure pane in view, it's under the view menu down here under structure. You can hide it and show it with a shortcut there. And you can either come up to the file menu and import XML here, or if you do already have the structure panel up, you can click on the little hamburger menu here, and there's also import XML. So I'm already in the extracted zip folder, so when you download the content from the plugin, it will save it as a zip archive with the edition date, and then it includes all of the photos, and of course here's the XML file that contains all the body and text content as well as all the references to the images. I usually keep the import options toggled on so we can just double check those. And by default, just merging content, and most of these you don't need to mess with because we're not dealing with table content and things like that, so you can just leave these at the default as well. And we'll click OK. Now, if the structure panel wasn't already visible, it will open up when you import an XML file. So this, you should be seeing this, and this is all of the stories from the edition that I have exported. So we're just going to take a look at this first one, and I want to just do a little tour of the structure pane here. So let me twirl this back down. So the root, this is just a container, and this is the basic base or root of the document. So you hit this little chevron to the left, we'll open that up, and then each of these are also a container. It's this little icon with the brackets here. So that's a container. Once again, all containers will have this little chevron to twirl down. And then within the story container, we have other elements here. So this one has a different icon. It's got the 3 lines on it. That indicates, we hover over it, this can be placed in the document. This element can be placed. And it also represents a text object. So if we twirl this down, this is just the title, and it has the paragraph style specified. And then if we come down to the next one, that's the subhead. It's the same. Now the next one here, this is a body element, and once again, this is a container tag. So if we twirl this one down, what this actually contains is a series of paragraph elements, and you see this with the P there. Most of these are just normal paragraphs, but right here at the top, there's a setting in the exports that will include your bylines either in the body text or not. In this case, we have the bylines included in the body text, so it appears as the first entry here. And I did mention that only containers, but in this case, because these text objects have associated styles with them, you can twirl the chevron down to see what the styles are. There's nothing further in a container here. It just is allowing you to see what the styles assigned are. Okay, so first off, let's just take a look if we drag an element in, and we're going to start with the non-container element. So if you just drag a single element that's a text element into a frame, right here in the layout, so there's a frame there. It's a little light, but you'll see it when we drop it in. You see that. And also I have under the structure settings, I have the tagged frames. So when a frame has something associated with it. So this text frame now is linked. You can see we also have a little blue icon, and this icon here has changed from the 3 lines to kind of a text 3 lines, showing that it's been dropped into the layout. So you can see those are now linked. And we'll do the same thing with the subhead. I'm just grabbing the icon here, just the three-line icon here. Drag that in. There's a little text frame just below here. Whoops, I missed it. Let's try that again. There it is. And so this is our subhead. And before I move to looking at images, let's go ahead and keep looking at the text things here. So we can bring in individual paragraphs here, but because these are all flowing together as a single paragraph in the body, in this case, we will actually, instead of individually dragging in these individual text elements, we'll drag the container itself into this frame here. So we have a frame that's below, we've got a picture and caption placeholder here. So we're going to put this in the body placeholder. And when I let it go, you see what happens. We're getting the first paragraph has this different, let me zoom in just a little bit. The first paragraph here has the byline style as specified here, and then the remaining paragraphs will just have the normal body style attached to it. And this frame already has the 3 columns set up. You can see the text is overset as well, so you can see we've got a little bit more text to work with, and we can play with that later. So what we were just looking at here, let's just go back here. So the title was an individual text element being dragged into an individual text frame. Same thing with the subhead, but the body, we dragged the body container element that has all the paragraphs in it. We dragged that into our quote-unquote body frame, and then the individual paragraph styles, if given, will be assigned there. Okay, now let's take a look at graphics. So a graphic element, this is also a container. Twirl this down, you can see it contains an image with the actual reference to where it is on your hard drive in that archive we were just looking at, as well as the text element for the caption. Now, I just wanted to kind of show you by default how an image comes in. So if you drag it into a frame, it will follow the frame fitting guidelines. So for instance, if we click this empty frame here and we come to fitting, look at frame fitting options, there's nothing set up here. So if we drag, I'm going to drag just the image, not the graphic container, but just the image into this empty frame, it's basically going to drop it in at full resolution and not pay attention, and since there was no fitting set to that. So let's undo that. And now if we come back and let's update the fitting first, and let's fit the content proportionally, we'll set auto fit. You can even set it if you want it to kind of use the top or the center as where it's judging the scaling and the cropping from. So we'll hit OK there. Now when we drop the image in, you can see how it automatically resizes to fit in to that frame. Now what happens if you don't drag? You saw just a second there, and I'll show it again. Let's undo that placement and just drag it randomly anywhere. Now, as you can see, this page here has columns already set up. But let's see what this looks like. We just drag the image in with no frame associated. What it's going to do is it's going to create a new image frame at the size of the original photo. Now, this can be fine, but it also means you have to zoom out a bit. I mean, you see it's going all off the layout and all these kind of things. So you can now bring this down, resize the frame that it creates, and then set up the fit content proportionally and handle it that way. So it is possible to do that, but I just wanted to point out that by default, if you drag in an image into the layout and it's not being dragged into a frame, it's just going to create its own frame at the size of the image resolution, which can be quite big. And if this is it's dragged in as part of a container, which I'll show you next, it can be a little fun to work with. So let's undo that. And I want to show you now, if we drag the graphic container in, basically the way InDesign is going to treat this is, even if you drag this into a frame, it's still going to not have a quote-unquote target frame for the image. So the image is going to create its own frame at the size of the image. It's going to be super big, and then the caption will be included as a text element within that frame. So let's actually try that real quick. So I've got this empty frame here, and instead of dragging the image into it, I'm going to drag the container for the image and the caption. Okay, and see what happens. we don't actually see the image. We see it's tagged because the color changes, but you see this overset text here. That's happening because the image block is that same big block that I was just showing a moment ago, and it is too big to show in this frame. So if you drag something as a container level, you don't have any control over the image block size, and almost every time it's going to end up kind of hidden in this overset text area, which just can be a little difficult to manage. So that's why we don't necessarily recommend doing that. But I will show you though one more. If we undo that and instead drag the container over here onto this blank thing, this blank area of the layout, keeping in mind that these column breaks are here. See what happens here. We'll bring the graphic container into the layout here, and you see what it does. It actually respects the columns on here, but we're still running into the overset text issue. I'll zoom out a bit here, and I'll bring this over so you can see. I'll just drag it real big, and so you can see what's actually in here. It's the caption is all the way down here, and it is grabbing the text style properly, no problem there. And what it's done is it's actually placed the image instead of it isn't an image block, but it's an image block anchored to the caption, which means you can't move it. So if you resize this, you see how it kind of moves things around in interesting ways. You move this over to, or trying to change the size here to the left, it'll pop over to the left because this has an anchor positioning to the caption itself. And that can be useful, but the issue is when you drag the graphic container in, you end up with these oversized image blocks until you go in and fix them. So what we would recommend in this case, or in many cases, is we've got the placeholder frame for the image, but then we also just put a separate frame in for the caption. And these can always be grouped together if you need to afterwards, but that makes it the easiest. Remember, we already set up, or actually let's just verify that we still have fitting options set up here. Yes, we do. So in this case, we'll just drag the image in. It will fit. Drag the caption in to the block right below it. That will fit. And I'm going to toggle these colors off so you can see what they look like. And now we have just a little cleanup here. And now we have the beginnings of our layout, basically bringing in all of the story content. We did some individual text elements. We do the images and captions as individual elements, but we can drag the entire body container into the frame, and it will respect any kind of column setup and wrapping and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, I hope this has been helpful. This is just a very quick overview of dropping and placing things. Let's see, before we do move on, I did want to point out that if you try to remove something, so there's links between here. That's what those colors mean. So once you have something linked, you can replace it or you can basically delete it. But once it's in here, if you don't want to mess around with the structure panel, because if for some reason there was an update to the content, you exported some new XML, one of the cool things is if you just re-import the XML, it still has all the same story number IDs and all those kind of things. This has a new headline or some paragraphs have been updated. All those will be reflected because they're live linked. That's what these little indicators are showing us, is that these are linked to these frames. So you need to be a little bit on the careful side. If you wanted to put a different image in here, the way you would do that is actually just drag a different image in and drag the different caption in. And as you see, the little blue dots next to these two have gone away, and they are now showing on these where that new content is showing up. So that's where I would go in and change things. The other thing is if you really want to come in here, you can change this Saints, let's say still soar, just for a different kind of wording there. And you see the link is still there, and it actually updates here in the structure panel. So you can see the live linking going on there. The other thing I would note is that if you then do re-import some XML and merge that in here, those will be the changes that are reflected instead of anything you make locally here. Okay, so I think this is good enough for a quick overview of how to place and manage these XML elements and how they're going to behave when you're dragging and dropping them into your layout. But please reach out to us at ops@ourhometown.com if you have any questions. We're always there for training and just quick responses to help you get done what you need to get done. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.